All right, my man. We should be ready to hit it here. How are your last 2 weeks, Billy?
It has been actually pretty busy. As crazy as it sounds, like busier than usual. I haven't even had a lot of time to talk a lot of shit on Twitter, but yeah, it's kind of been head down, busy work. But just a lot of projects. It's not to sound cliche, but I've literally been building stuff, so it's pretty fun, and I'm happy with the accomplishments that I've done, and it's been pretty awesome. So I really can't complain. You've been gone for a little bit, so that's pretty awesome. For those coming into the room, this is Late Night with Billyjitsu. This is a no holds barred, honesty, bi-weekly show that we have from a developer's perspective, a veteran's perspective. T Wells is I would say pretty deep in the DAO game, really neutral in the space, and I really vibe with T Wells. And we have this show that we have bi-weekly that just covers topics and a lot of different issues that we have that comes up during the weeks. A little bit of news updates, a little bit of details, and we don't care if it hurt your feelings or not, honestly. So I speak my mind. Anybody that knows me knows that I speak my mind, and I just tell you the truth, and I give you my opinions on it, and whether you take it or not is totally up to you. And today we're going to cover quite a few subjects, but primarily the big focus one that I'd love to have a lot of people, give their feedback on is this kind of battle I've been thinking of, almost like a civil war. It's crypto versus Web3, the old school versus the new school, and what that means to me and what that means to other people too. So hopefully we'll cover that in depth in a little bit, and then just a quick news breakdown of like Harmony getting hacked. MakerDAO is kind of having that same civil war. The old school Bitcoin guys are getting broke. They're all broke now. BlockFi, oh my God. Arbitrum pauses because it got too popular. And this latest news that I didn't put up there is Peter Schiff's account gets blocked. The major gold guy gets his bank account closed down. So that'll be interesting for discussion as well. So definitely. But let's cover some of the news topics right off the top. A lot of people kind of made a lot of noise and then it just disappeared. But Harmony getting hacked for $100 million is kind of a big deal, And I believe that it came out from another North Korean hack as well. And unfortunately, the hack was $100 million on a 2-5 multi-sig. That means for anybody that doesn't know what a multi-sig is if we have a group of people, like the group of people here in the spaces, right? There's five of us here. If we wanted to vote on something, we needed a majority vote. So I would say 3 out of 5 is a good number. So that's the majority vote to make things happen. Harmony, the whole platform itself, had a 2 out of 5 vote. So only two people or two wallets needed to vote for something to pass. So when one was compromised, all you need is one more, and you literally drained the entire value of the entire chain out. And I believe it was North Korea. I'm not 100% sure because the story was a little bit buried, but it wasn't even any of the protocols in there. Like Aave's on there, Curve is on there. So like you figure a blue chip that deploys on a chain, you got to have like a little bit of a trust on that. And so nothing was wrong with those platforms, but now the value of everything that's on that chain is pretty much a testnet. So it's like you putting your money at a Vegas casino, and you traded your cash for tokens, and let's say you won big, you won $1 million, and you take those tokens to cash out, and Harmony says, "Hey, sorry, buddy, we don't have any cash for you to cash out, but here's some tokens and here's a free buffet." And it's quite unfortunate that the security is so low, and it really makes you think like all these bridges and all these, Harmony was kind of I've seen them around. I saw them in ETH Denver. I know Binance was heavily invested in them, but there was nothing that really called me to say, "Hey, I want to go try this and use this." It was just another one
What
of those.
about Deadhouse, brother?
I'm not a fan. Maybe he's trying to put the mask over my eyes, but there was just nothing that I ever wanted to use to deal with it. So unfortunately, it's still up in the air. Like, what's going to happen with it? I don't know if there's going to be a bailout. Obviously, when the bull run was happening, all the VCs were bailing, all these chains out because they were making their money back like literally within a week. But now that they have the bear market, I'm very curious what happens to the $100 million and like what happens to everybody there. Is Binance going to do another bailout? I know they're having some issues, bailing out other places. So I'm very curious to see what happens. It's still ongoing, but it's quite unfortunate that security is like taken so lightly. I mean, for all the multi sigs I have at least a 3 out of 5, right? And I'm not even dealing with $1 million. Honestly, I'm not even close to that. I'm stressing out for a couple thousands here, and these guys have literally $100 million, and they're controlling it with the 2.5 multi sig. It goes to show you how sloppy a lot of these developers are and a lot of these companies are when it comes to security. They were only focusing about profits, and it's quite unfortunate for all the users out there. I know Aave is having a vote to see what they're going to do for all their users, but now it's kind of like every man on their own in a sense, unfortunately. But we'll happen to see what goes on with that and what happens, with Harmony as a total, if it's going to be just a dead chain or if they'll come through. Speaking of like the VC support, MakerDAO, I'm not sure if you heard any of that news, but there is a big civil war happening in MakerDAO as well. For those that don't know, MakerDAO is one of the OGs that created, like I would say, one of the first stable coins that are in existence. Is the DAI token. It's a DAI dollar. So basically, when they first did it, it was only backed by Ethereum. So you had to put like $1,000 of Ethereum to print, let's say, $700 worth of DAI. So it was all over collateralized. So then we had a stable coin to base off of because back in 2017 you could only trade off Bitcoin or Ethereum. So if Bitcoin went down in value, your token kind of tanked with it too. So DAI was one of these revolutionary things from MakerDAO. And they've been decentralized and they've been a neutral force this whole time. And now, the growth of DAI token hasn't been great. USDT obviously is the king. USDC has grown up in much value. It's really close to USDT now. It's got a lot of support from Circle, a lot of BlackRock support. Makes sense. So MakerDAO is having a civil war. It's like, do we say decentralized, or do we make this growth task force with a set of a council to decide what's the best way to market and make use of MakerDAO funds? So there's a bit of a war. It's like, do we stay decentralized? Do we stay punk? Or do we go more corporate and we have this board of directors that basically centralize and decide, what's the best way to make money? And it's a very, very interesting path to take because I know MakerDAO wants to have some of that institution money. And then the other half of it says, no, fuck the institution. Let's stay true to our vision and keep everything neutral and decentralized. Have you heard anything about that, T Wells?
I'm following the fringes here on crypto Twitter after the last 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
I've been on the road, but I've been reading on the Twitter, sort of perusing the forum there, and yeah, I get the general tension of sort of resistance towards greater centralization.
Yeah.
In this current market environment.
Well, I'm not sure if I spoke on it before, but I think I spoke on it probably like another Twitter space I jumped in on. It's if you write a contract, right, and you have the ability to save your bags or benefit your sale, you're gonna do it. It's human nature to protect what you have, right? So like it's no longer immutable in the space if you have the ability to do it. It happened to Bancor with the impermanent loss protection, right? Celsius, whether it was a shitty move or a smart move, they abused it by claiming their impermanent loss protection and then shorting the tokens on FTX and then selling their stack and then making money off the short. So they abused it and they pretty much like slammed the token. It dumped, right? And so the Bancor team had a decision to make: do we protect our bags or do we stay true to the impermanent loss protection? And they ultimately protected their bags because they had the ability to do so. MakerDAO is now giving this vote ability to say, all right, let's increase our bags, right? But then once you have human interaction with it, now look at the problems that happen with CeFi. We're dealing with all the effects of what happens when human interaction happens. CeFi, like, is pretty much self-destructing as we speak, but DeFi, which you can't touch users' funds and it only does as intended and people can't interfere, is working perfectly fine. So we're having this kind of weird, moment in space where things aren't immutable anymore, things aren't autonomous at this current time, and the humans are fucking it up. In a sense, it's going to be an interesting thing, and MakerDAO has such a history, and it's going to be very interesting to see what this is like. This I can see a movie of what MakerDAO's history and what their future will be. I mean, we're talking some OG guys from the Ethereum network that are going back and forth on this, and I'm very curious to see like how this is going to turn out. I hope they don't do the growth task force, but I don't have enough maker tokens to even have a sway in the vote. But again, it's just one of those things of like I hope the essence of what they built stays the same. And then again, speaking of people that
Is
kind of
this
lost
so? Is
away.
this Makershire Hathaway? I just want to hate to
Oh,
interrupt, man. I just want to confirm that this is the special purpose fund.
oh
Is that
yes,
correct?
yes, yeah, for their growth task
Yeah.
force. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So they're trying to
For
make,
those of you who are watching on YouTube.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The ties are trying to
The
take over.
Cointelegraph article I flashed up has got some good links. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then people that lost away. So look, I think all the old school Bitcoin maximalists are now all officially broke. Okay, so I know Pump. He was a big time investor in BlockFi, right? I know Roger Ver just got liquidated, and this guy, I don't know how he did this, but he pretty much traded all his Bitcoin for I think Bitcoin Cash. So, he leveraged long on it. So basically, I think
Wah,
he's broke.
wah.
So I mean, like all these old school Bitcoin guys, all they had to do was hold. You know, that's all they had to do. They just had to sit and hold, and they would have been just fine, right? But these guys got greedy and they leveraged themselves into it, and they got themselves into bad positions because the market crashed pretty hard and fast. So unfortunately, a lot of these old school Bitcoin guys are now kind of broke. You know, it's an end of an era. And it goes back to what I originally said, like way back when. It's like like if my grandpa bought a house, in the 20s, for $10,000, and now he sold it today for $5 million. He's not a real estate mogul. He just happened to be in the game for a long time, and he just didn't do anything with it. He just sat with it. He shouldn't be having real estate, investor, conferences or anything like that. He's just one person that just got in at the right time and just sat on it. So when people listen to all these people that like say the most stupid thing, like it's so crazy, just because they have money, you don't know how they got it. Again, a lot of these OG Bitcoin guys were old Silk Road users that were, had leftover Bitcoin because, Silk Road went down and they had to buy drugs somewhere else. A lot of guys did believe into it in the technology, but a lot of these guys are pretty nuts. So it's kind of interesting to see how,
It's true.
yeah, they're self imploding now because they're getting greedy, and like it's just insane that CoinFlex liquidated him and he went long on a token that nobody believed in anyway. So it's absolutely insane, like what's happening. Like this is total state of change in this era
The
right now.
confirmation bias there is so nuts, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that you go leverage without any. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, people got too greedy too fast. They thought it was never going to go down, and this is what happens. And everybody learned their lesson. And the investors that invested in BlockFi, talking about we're going to have DeFi on Bitcoin. It basically turned into CeFi, and all these guys basically cannot withdraw anymore, or they lost their investment. BlockFi, it wasn't sold for 25 million to FTX. It was sold for about 275 million because they did give them 250 million dollars in credit. So, the 25 million is a little off, but BlockFi was in trouble because one, they basically gave over leveraged on 3 hours capital, which is insane to me. Like this is the most insane thing in the world to me. Every user around us, me and you, let's say we wanted to borrow some money from BlockFi and say, hey, I want to borrow $10,000 and all I have is, 5,000. BlockFi is going to tell me to fuck off, right? 3 hours capital comes around and say, all right, we're not going to give you any collateral or just the bare minimum collateral and give us billions of dollars. And they said, okay. It was absolutely insane. So like they broke their own rules because of human interaction, human greed, right? And because 3 hours capital got screwed by Luna and then screwed by all the market falling and
No
everything,
probs.
boom, they just burned like all these CeFi lenders, right? Because they weren't over collateralized. And it's just again human interaction, more of this trust us, bro, we got it, and and it basically killed them. And it's quite unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like I actually had money in BlockFi a while ago, and just to be safe, I did have it insured with Nexus Mutual. But even then, like when everything was falling apart, I was like, man, like is it really worth the extra 10% that I was making on the money that I had on the line, even if it was insured? Because then, like, let's say it went down, and then in Nexus Mutual, I went to go, collect my insurance, and then they went belly up because everybody was collecting insurance. It was just one of those things. Like, I'd rather not, and let me just cash out, and I'll sleep easier. And lo and behold, then they give props to them for not like stopping withdrawals, but it definitely hurt them a lot. And I don't know if they're going to be able to come out as BlockFi or if they're going to be BlockFi FTX. FTX has been buying everything, but it's crazy. And Celsius, Celsius is quite the story. For those that don't know, Celsius has locked withdrawals. I mean, they were the first ones to lock withdrawals
Sam on a
for about
rampage.
yeah. 2 weeks. I think it's about 2 weeks now. They've locked withdrawals, and they were on the verge of liquidation. Like if they got liquidated, they would have been insolvent, right? And so they would have been sued to death.
Hmm.
So they've been gambling and they've been winning this gamble, which is absolutely insane to me. And the only reason we know about this is because it's all on the blockchain, right? If this was like, JP Morgan or Bank of America with like my stocks and bonds, this would all be black box and we wouldn't know what was going on. But because this is on the blockchain, we can
Yep.
literally see it happening. And these guys are winning their bets. It's so crazy. They have knocked down their debt to the liquidation of on Bitcoin to like just under $5,000 when they were at liquidation at $20,000. So they've been paying off debts left and right. Again, this is people's money on the line right here, but they've been paying off debts from liquidation. So they might make it. As crazy as it sounds, they might make it out of this mess because they've been like basically playing dirty games and shifting the market with these bumps, highs and lows. But they're doing it, and I mean, it's kind of shady moves, but I kind of applaud them because at least at the end of the day, the people that are locked up have a good chance of getting their money back. So kudos to them. I don't like their tactics, but at the end of the day, it's more about the users than anything. But man, it's quite a crazy thing to watch. Like literally, you could see the liquidation price, just lowering and lowering and lowering, and it's like, man, I'm just waiting for these guys to say, okay, withdrawals are open, and then when the withdrawals come out, man, watch that dump happen again because people will get their money back and they're going to want to be safe. They're going to dump, So we'll see. Again, not financial advice and all that, but it's just one of those crazy, crazy
I love that.
situations. Yeah. And
And that
then
tweet I share with you, that people making historical analogies between Sam and JP Morgan.
yeah, yeah, it's so crazy. And then a big bummer, I was actually a part of it too, and everybody should be a part of it, is Arbitrum's Odyssey. They actually put a pause to it. They got too much traffic, unfortunately. So for those that don't know, Arbitrum is a layer two to Ethereum. For those that kind of are in the know of it, Optimism and Arbitrum are, I would say, two hand in hand, but semi-competitive layer twos on there. They're actually the only layer twos in existence right now. And Optimism already dropped a token, right? So obviously everybody's looking at Arbitrum saying, okay, when are you guys going to drop your token? And I recommend, take your chances and bridge over and use the network, and then you probably qualify for a token drop. So they actually had what they call the Odyssey, and that was going to be a 6 week, mission based type of thing where you bridge to Arbitrum, use some of the platforms, you're going to earn NFTs, and the highest bridge user gets bonus NFTs, and at the end you get like this really cool NFT. But at the end of the day, you would have used all these basic softwares and dApps on there, and then you would have had volume on the chain, and then most likely would have got you, a qualification for the token drop if there was one. I strongly believe there will be because there's just competition, and if they don't, maybe not, maybe it's not the best time, but at some point, maybe a year from now, they might have a token drop. He's like, man, I'm glad I did it. But see, the problem was everybody did it. So and the low fees at Arbitrum, that was like a few cents, became like a few bucks. And then transferring over, the liquidity was very, very minimal. Like I tried doing it from Hopper for $20, and it was going to cost me $100 in fees to transfer
Oh
over.
shit.
And then I tried to do a Connect, and it was $600. So it was like the liquidity was just drained because everybody was jumping over to Arbitrum, and the fees were insane. Like just able to do a swap was like $25. I'm like, oh my
Like
god,
do an LP.
yeah,
Go LP on Hop.
yeah, yeah.
Before Arbitrum announces the next phase.
Yeah, and that's the move right now. So now I'm moving liquidity over to Arbitrum right now myself. That way I have money there ready to go, and I'm also forming LPs on all these bridges because as soon as that goes live again, that money's going to be flowing like crazy. We don't know when it is. They said they're going to release it on Nitro, but I mean, if this is alpha, this is alpha. Like it's just a smart move because as soon as they announce the floodgates, everybody's going to go flooding back in again. Yeah, I only moved in about $100, but it's not enough because the next two quests right after they had was deposit 50 here, put liquidity over here, and my $100 is going to dry up pretty quick. Again, you could withdraw it, but then the platforms themselves have incentives, so I might want to stay. So I'm looking, different ways, but just heads up, keep your eye on Arbitrum, keep your eye on Odyssey. I'm always tweeting about it. So, once they go back up, I will tweet about it again, but just, bridge to Arbitrum, get a little bit of money there, get $100, $200 there, just have it ready to go. So you're not stuck paying crazy bridge fees You're not, paying liquidity
Marketing
fees.
curve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let's play ahead of the game, right? Anyways, and then the biggest, before I get into this whole subject, is the biggest one. The biggest shocker for me is Peter Schiff. For those who don't know who Peter Schiff, he's very anti Bitcoin. He's been a very big advocate for buying gold. He thinks Bitcoin and crypto is very stupid. You're very foolish for investing in something crypto, this Ponzi scheme. And so now he has investors that invest with him, and he has an offshore bank account in Puerto Rico. And just a day ago, his account was closed for no reason. The ultimate, I would say like the ultimate dish to your face is like, okay, this is the very reason Bitcoin was created, because for the people that never had money held from them or withheld from them, like if you have a business and someone paid you on PayPal, and then PayPal just decided to freeze your funds for whatever, and you have to pay employees or you have to pay your rent. No one that has gone through that really understands the whole point of Bitcoin and being your own bank. So, Peter Schiff is like this guy that's like, oh, trust this, trust gold. They're going to take care of you. What a slap to the face, right? To have his bank, and now he can't pay back his investors. So all the people that invested with him and all that bank, he can't pay them back. So what a sticky situation for him. And it's quite funny because he's been so anti-crypto. So this would be the ultimate, like, I'd be like the metaverse right here. If this guy goes pro crypto, I'd be so excited to see like what happens with this.
It's
So
true.
I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out. And again, it's just another example of why we need this in the space. It's not like we don't need all of this. We need the simplicity and the beauty of Bitcoin of just being able to pay and make payments. I know it's not the most optimized for the 10 minutes, but it goes back to the original foundations of why this was created, because these things do happen. And it may not happen to you today, but it will eventually happen, in a year, 10 years, just depending on how it goes. And I always remind people, Canada is the biggest slap to the face, because when people were supporting those truckers, they were stopping accounts, they were closing accounts in Canada, they were basically creating a list of people that donated to it and causing problems for them. So you want to stand on. You want to have the power to support whoever you want for whatever reason. I mean, not to go too far off and like tinfoil hat, but like this abortion thing with the Supreme Court, like Roe versus Wade, I think is what if you donated to a cause that was a group that said, okay, like fuck the Supreme Court. Now are you put on the list? What if they don't like it? They close your account. They said it would never happen, but
Yeah.
look at Canada. Canada played their hand right up front. Right, if you cause problems for us, we're gonna do we're gonna do you dirty. And this was to like to people that were donating to the cause. I don't think they were hardcore anti-government people. They were just people that were supporting in what they believed in. So it just goes back to it.
Yeah.
Like until it happens to you, you don't really realize how much it's needed. And a lot of people didn't really go through the 2008, era of like the whole real estate crash and the economy crash. I think a lot of the new generations were kind of young, and so they didn't realize how that affected people. And I was right in the middle, but what a slap to the face when you invested in something to a house or whatever, you got into something that was really bad, and you got stuck holding the bag with that. And then you see these rich bankers, no one goes to jail, everybody was getting bonuses. The economy is in shambles, and like rich people just
Yeah, I remember that.
slap in the hand. You know, and that was the whole essence of why Bitcoin was born, and whole crypto and all that. So it's just another flashback as
Sure.
to why it is, and that kind of leads me to this main thing that I've really been thinking about a lot, and it's like something that I've gone back and forth with, and it's kind of like what I think is this civil war that we're having internally, and I think it's the different values of the battle of the Web3 people versus the crypto people. And it's a crazy interface, and I didn't realize what was happening. Like I've been so in it, like I took a step back and was like, oh shit, this is crazy. And I put it like a metaphor at a party. Let's say you build a house, right? You saved up, you build a house, you made it really nice, and you know what? You're like, I'm gonna have a party, right? And I'm gonna charge 5 people to come into my party. We're gonna have a good time, and it's open to anybody, right? And so the people come in, they don't really know you, but they're having fun and they're being respectful to your house, right? And then a couple people come in, a couple bad actors, like, hey, chill out, hang out. And then they start bringing, new people. There's younger kids now, and they start acting the fool. And then they start bringing like drug dealers, and like, hey, what are you guys doing? Don't stop. Oh, don't worry, man, it's cool. And then they start doing drugs on the side, and like people start bringing more bad influence, and they're ruining your house in a sense. And so when the cops come, they take off, right? And they're gone, but it's still your house, and now you have to fix it. And that's what I feel about like what a lot of these new Web3 people are, like the Web3 guys, and that's VCs or these people that want to bring institutions. They came in before crypto was really ready, right? Like everybody wants to get everybody onboarded, everybody wants everybody to come in, but it's like, what do you do with it in a sense? And it wasn't quite ready there, and they've kind of corrupted in a way, like with NFTs. And I think NFTs are cool, but to the point where now it's so flooded and it's really bad and people are in it for the wrong reasons, that now obviously it's being what is it, regulated, right? Because people abused it so much, like these bad actors just did such damage that the government said, oh, we have to come in and do this. UST, like these guys just did so much damage to extract so much value from the space, that these regulators saying, hey, you guys can't do that. So the guys that were behaving are the guys that were respecting and trying to build a new technology and trying to like build something that was actually useful for the community, now have to deal with all these extra hurdles because of these bad actors.
Yeah.
And I,
Yeah.
I think they can coexist. Cash and credit cards can coexist, but I think cash is like crypto, and credit cards are like is like Web3, right? And I think like real estate. I bring about real estate and NFTs as an example, right? I always use that as an example. Like real estate can be sold in NFTs, and I think that's more of a Web3 thing, right? Not a crypto thing, because for real estate to work, we're going to need a central authority to say yay or nay, this is legit or not, right? Because we're using real life assets. So like if I just mint my house on OpenSea or something and then I sell it, what's to stop somebody else from minting my house before me and selling it before me, right? So we're going to need a central
Right.
authority, some kind of government authority to say, hey, that's not legit. This is how it's going to be. What if my wallet gets stolen and they're going to steal my house from under me? There's so many complicated things that happens on such a sensitive real life asset that it's too dangerous to not have a central authority. And then if we push the government out, obviously they're going to push right back in. So that's what I would consider Web3. But for payments, I think that's crypto, peer to peer. We handle business. Me and you two, I was like, hey, send me $20. I'll send you $20 back, whatever. That has nothing to do with anybody else. It's the digital asset. We're going back and forth. We're cool. That has nothing to do with any kind of government authority, no lawyers, nothing. That's a peer to
Totally,
peer
man.
type of situation. We keep it crypto, we keep it private. If I want to buy a T-shirt from you, or if I want to buy whatever from you, or a service from you, that is between me and you, and that has nothing to do with any type of authority or anything outside of the space, right? And so we're having a clash of the two things going, kind of being jumbled together or being stuck together into like CFI and DeFi. Like DeFi, I'm dealing with a protocol. I'm dealing with a smart contract. If that smart contract does something nefarious, I can see it. Just like how if you're going to do a business deal and you got to get like a lawyer to go through the contract and read it and make sure everything's legit. Well, you can always hire a developer to read this smart contract to see if this contract is legit. It's the same thing. There's no like governing force to say, hey, this is how it's going to be with this contract. There's good lawyers and there's bad lawyers. There's going to be good devs. There's going to be bad devs. So like it's kind of a weird situation where like nobody knows how to move forward in the space because it's two different directions trying to mash together, right? And people don't understand that. Like so people want like this quick Web3 solution because it sounds better than crypto because crypto's got this bad name. So it's kind of like a marketing thing. Web3. It's not crypto anymore
Yeah.
because crypto got this bad name. That's where the shadows, super shadowy coders are, and those are the bad guys. And Web3 is where is we're doxxed. We can see what you're doing, and you can see that we're honest people. And it's like a total back and forth. And I think I tweeted this earlier. It's like Ready Player One always is like an example for the metaverse, right? Everybody, oh, Ready Player One, Ready Player One. But in the movie itself, when they find out the identity of the person, they try to kill the motherfucker. You know what I mean? It's like you should stay anon because the moment this guy threatened this corporation's control, they went after him, right? This is why Bitcoin, like the Doji
Yeah.
Nakamoto, is like that's why he's a nun, and that's why it worked because he didn't want any monetary gain. He just wanted the protocol to live. The reason Ethereum works is because, you know, what is it? Vitalik, he doesn't really care about the money. He cares about the vision, right? Whether Ethereum's $1 or $1,000,000, he's kind of like one of these guys that are semi-neutral. And much respect to him for that because the money never got to him and he always stays neutral to what the end goal is. He's one of those people that just stays in the goal, and that's why it works. So, you got a lot of these guys like Solana, you had a lot of VC funding, and, there's a CEO of the blockchain, which is insane. So, like, well, how decentralized in it when the government comes down on it, the CEO is going to say, well, let's shut it down in a sense. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like this back and forth of, and it's going to coexist. But the problem is, the Web3 is kind of taking over in a sense of the crypto world, and like it's separating the two. And there's a lot of new people bringing in Web3, and there's a lot of people kind of teaching teaching the old their ways instead of like what crypto stood for. Like what they say, you can take a kid out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the kid. So we could, so like all these guys that are coming in from Web 2 and from corporate values, that's what they're spreading in Web 3. They're spreading the structure, they're spreading like this business plan, and they're, and I believe there's a lot of good in corporate structure, but they're trying to make it fit into what this crypto world is about, and it doesn't quite fit. We're trying to incorporate DAOs. Well, that's not the point of it. And I've come to the solution, like, you don't incorporate the DAO, you incorporate yourself, and then your participation in the DAO, if the DAO goes to shit, at least you are protected. So it doesn't really matter. But once you incorporate the DAO to United States soil, well, now it has to comply to all those rules. And if we have to rewind it back, crypto really wasn't about compliance. It was about changing the world, right? So if we keep complying, then we're never going to change the world, because we're just going to fit the mold into the original way that we have problems with to begin with, right? So it's such a crazy thing to me. Like the Web3 to me is like accepting credit cards on OpenSea. Like, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, crypto was all about payments. Crypto was all about payments and saying fuck you to the man, right? And this big corporation says, okay, we're going to offer credit cards, and we're going to take a big chunk of that money that you spend as a convenience fee. So now you're basically feeding the very guy that we're saying fuck you to. So it's kind of like a crazy oxymoron of like, what's going on, guys? Why are people excited that they're accepting credit cards on OpenSea when we should be using crypto?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to go bankless, but yet we're accepting credit cards. It's quite the interesting dynamic of what's happening in the space, and where people's values are. I've learned really fast and really hard that obviously everybody in this space has gotten because of the money and the opportunity, no question, and no one should be embarrassed of that. I'm definitely looking for money too, for sure, but it's what values are we willing to give up, or what are you willing to sell out for the better vision of the plan, right? Like, I could make money literally weekly. For the past year, I could have been just deploying NFT contracts left and right for any stupid ass project that could be. Oh, you guys need a contract? I got you. Oh, you guys need a website? I got you. I could have been doing that every 2 weeks for the last 2 weeks, and made a shitload of money. But it would have been pointless. Like, it does nothing for the space, and it just would have been more noise in the space. And I would have been contributing to, like, literally that kind of foolishness in a sense. Like, I was trying to shoot something a little bit more, a little bit more bigger vision in a sense. But if you wanted the money, you could have done it. And it's good money, and I think it's still kind of happening little by little. But I choose not to involve myself. It's just whether it's a value thing, or a space valuation thing. I just that's my personal opinion. But it's just like, if it doesn't do anything to contribute to the space, if there's nothing good coming out of it other than filling people's pockets, then it's really not my thing. You know and it's not, it doesn't feel good. Like, it's like, man, I wish, I don't want to sound like the old guy saying the old ways were better, but I'm hoping that a lot of people will realize, there are other options. There is another way. Email versus Connect Wallet, right? Like, people are still asking for emails, and I totally get that. Like, people need emails to be able to stay in contact with their clients. If you connect your wallet, you don't know who your clients are. I get it. But the moment you connect your email with the wallet, you've now doxed yourself, right? So unfortunately, like, I have burner wallets and I have burner emails. So, like, anybody that asks me an email, I have to have another burner wallet, right? Because I value my privacy, so I have to take these extra steps to stay more private. Some places I don't care that I'll use the same burner wallet, whatever, doesn't matter. But it's just one of these things. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. You know, let's change the narrative. Let's just let's keep Connect Wallet, keep your anonymity, right? If one of the original, like, promotions for crypto was like, you control your personal information, right? So then if you wanted to sell it, then you could. So then why not incentivize me to give you my personal information versus here's an email, sign up if you want, right? So there's a lot of going back and forth between it, and that's kind of like why I'm going back and forth between Web3 and crypto, and like I'm more on the side of the crypto. I'm feeling more of the Bitcoin maximalism. I'm not hardcore. I'm not Ethereum max. I'm not I'm neutral. I think, but I just see the best opportunities or like the best vision is the purity of that in a sense, and
If you
go for it.
combine this
Yeah,
peer-to-peer cash and privacy, I mean, I still think XMR has got to be the best thing out there. And it's, it's not something people talk a lot about,
yeah,
but it does one thing and it does it really, really well. I mean, part of me, just listen to a lot of what you're saying here. It's like, I feel like the response to the way that the crisis happened and then nobody being held accountable back in 2008, leading to a desire to then build something better as a potential system of money and peer-to-peer exchange. Like I get the sense that today, like you need to hopefully, my perception is that you're going to layer on top of that the urgency of privacy. Like you have the peer-to-peer ability to essentially choose an alternative means of exchange to centralized bankster run shit. But you
yeah,
also need you need that anonymity and privacy. I mean, to me, it seems like the tech already exists, right? And in a sense, it's like a little sap. It's like a little sprout. It's like a tree, a little one, but it's not really experiencing a lot of adoption, but it could, right? Like
yep,
if the government or sort of authorities overplay their hand, it's not like we're gonna have to look around and be like, oh, what do we do? Like the tech exists. Some of it's been there for quite a while, and I could see that people turning to that much more seriously out of the same reason that Bitcoin was invented, right? It's like the acuity of the threat becomes obvious, but
right.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, people forget that USDC can literally freeze your assets in place. Like if they know your wallet, they can literally freeze your funds indefinitely. So it's like, okay, do you really want to, use those funds knowing that? Do you feel safer because, oh, we're backed by the dollar? But if you misbehave, government can say, hey, circle, find this guy's wallet address and freeze all his funds, and now they're locked forever, indefinitely.
There's always a
So
trade-off, right? Yeah.
yeah,
You,
yeah,
you want the
yeah,
stablest of stable coins. You might be
yeah.
in a panopticon.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a crazy situation of where people again bad things. Unfortunately, bad things have to happen to people or bad experience people as a whole for them to realize the true essence of what this thing is all about. And unfortunately, it may happen again. With the NFT market, it's still kind of early. I think people still have hope. I still see we're still building and we're still high hopes of things that are going to happen. But you got to realize that USDT used to have what $87 billion in its market cap. It's now down to like 65 billion. So like that, like what is it? What almost $20 billion is gone from like the entire market just in USDT alone, not including Bitcoin or anything. People are pulling out. Large institutions are pulling out, and they're just waiting. They're patient and just waiting for things to just drop. And my personal indicators are Dogecoin and Shiba. And Dogecoin, people don't realize like nothing has been like contributed to Dogecoin for like I think 7 years ish. Like there's no GitHub updates, and it just works, and it works fine. But the problem is it has an indefinite market cap. So every minute on the minute, there are more Dogecoins like being minted as we speak. And so what happens that you're just holding onto this Dogecoin and just losing value the longer you hold it. I know Elon is a big advocate or whatever, but it really does nothing. There's no innovation happening on it. There's no Lightning Network. There's nothing. So people don't realize what they have until like it's too late and like things are going to value and then people start reanalyzing their stuff. Shiba does absolutely zero. It's literally a token that was just made as a meme and it's still worth like almost like $4 billion. So there's still a lot of new people in the space that
Insanity.
you know are not really educated, and I kind of like I don't want to say go head to head with educators, but I think educators kind of like they do everything they can to get an audience, and my critique is you shouldn't be onboarding everybody all the time. And while the information is good for everybody, and I think information is good, it's like educators tend to like, here's all this information, not financial advice. This is good and the bad, and then they raise their hands out of it. Oh, if something bad happens to you, not my problem, right? And I kind of disagree with that in a sense. Like, I don't want to limit education, but there are certain target groups that are going to accept it better than others. There was a space I was in, and this guy was like, "Hey, we're going to go to the
Yeah.
Facebook groups, and we need to add crypto groups, and we need to invest with people." I was like, "Well, okay, look, you know, who gets hacked the most, right? The AOL users used to get hacked like left and right, right? AOL users is grandma and grandpa in a sense. Facebook users are kind of like 40 and up for the majority, right? These are the same people that lose their passwords for Facebook and then call their grandchildren. Can you help me find my password, right? Now, crypto information is good, and I know there's a lot of people in the older age bracket. I myself, I'm the older age bracket that understand crypto, but the majority as a whole, it's like giving a kid, and it's controversial, giving a kid a gun. It's like, all right, here's a gun safety, be careful with it, but it's not my problem. I taught you that, not financial advice, but if you do something and hurt yourself, that's not my problem. I just educated you. So, not everybody is ready to be bankless. Not everybody is responsible enough to be bankless. I say, go for the younger generation. One, for two reasons. One, they're going to be more receptive. Two, they're not going to have a lot of money to lose. And if they do lose, they're going to be able to make it back. You know, Someone that's 50, 60 years old that goes into crypto and their kid, convinces them to go into crypto. How much time do they have to make it back?
Bad
It
idea,
all goes
man.
to shit. You know,
Bad fucking idea. Yeah.
and everybody that onboarded people in 2022 has all lost money for the most part, majority. It's always been downhill since 2022. It has constantly been going down. So anybody that got onboarded this year is on a negative spiral. So I can only imagine the phone calls and the texts or the messages like, "Hey man, what's going on? What can they do?" It's, "Oh man, I just educated you." So there's always these if, ands, or buts of like, "Hey, chill out." I tell people personally, like, again, not financial advice, but if you want to get in the game, everybody's excited. It's a new technology. Just do a little bit at a time. Dollar cost average, just a little, $20, 10, whatever. If like literally, if you lost it in Vegas, you wouldn't really worry about it, and just that way you're a little bit in the game and just watch the market go. And if you really want to know what I'm buying, I'll shoot you a message saying, "Hey, I'm buying." But right now, I'm not really buying. It's just one of these things of like. But I'm,
Yeah,
I'm coming back to like the education. Is like you can't just throw education out there irresponsibility, just saying because you want to teach everybody. There's a certain responsibility. Like when I write a program, right? Let's like say IPFS, right? The developers of IPFS, we're creating this immutable, project, and like no one can touch it or do anything. Well, there comes good with the bad, right? What if someone puts like somebody's nude photo up there? Now what? There's a certain responsibility of like, okay, what are the risks and the bad? And the same thing goes back with education. If I'm teaching this education and I'm rolling up my hand saying, okay, not financial advice, it's still leaving that weapon out in the wild. Now they've got a little bit of education where they're really dangerous and they need a little bit more handheld, right? And it's unfortunately there's just too much noise right now in this market. And so I'm hoping for the bear because you're going to see a lot less, people making spaces of a lot fewer people, interacting. And then the noise is going to go away, and then it's going to be a lot more clear. And that's when you can get a lot of good information because the people that are trying to scam you or give bad information, they've already been burned out because their engagement's down or whatever. And they're, fuck crypto, I'm going to take off or I'm going to take a break or I'm going to do something else. And then that's when the noise clears up, and that's when you can get really good education. Everybody wants to, make some noise and get, followers, but why? Because they want the followers to follow them. And then what do they get? They get a benefit. They get whatever they promote. Then it benefits them, right? They're not doing education for education's sake. They're doing education because it benefits them and their team, and somehow maybe turn into a financial gain. Who knows? Or maybe they do it for the good. Like again, me and you two, we don't get any compensation for the show. It's just purely educational, and talk our shit. But at the end of the day, we're not pushing anything, and it's kind of more negative than positive, most of the time. But it's just
we're
the
just
real shit.
covering the news,
Yeah,
brother. Ain't our
yeah,
fault. People
yeah,
getting
yeah. It's
liquidated and
just
shit.
yeah, it's reality. I've been in the space for a while. I'm in the trenches with development. And like it's like okay, I see like it just I run my own business, so like some things make sense and some things like well, how does this work? I see DAOs that have all these great ideas. I was like, well, how does this DAO make money? And then obviously at the end it fails because there's no business model that makes it work. It's just a bunch of bright ideas and a lot of people with bright eyes that had business ideas in the bull market. But now that it gets nasty and DAOs and people aren't as excited anymore, people want to take breaks. People are having mental health issues, whatever. It's just a crazy space that we need the noise to clear out, and then we can refocus again and build something new. And that kind of takes me into like, everybody's always asking, what is blockchain? I do a talk. What is blockchain? Like, explain blockchain. It's like, why the fuck you want me to explain blockchain? Like,
An
do you want to be able
expensive ass
to?
database.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, you want me to explain blockchain, but again, do you want me to explain the internet too? Like, or do you just use it? You know, and that's what it comes down to. People are like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, do you want me to explain DNS? Do you want me to explain fucking IP systems? Do you want me to explain this? No, you just fucking use it. The girl fucking, selling feet pics on the internet and shit. She doesn't know how IPs work or fucking DNS, or she just knows she's got followers. She makes money, and she fucking takes a picture and uploads it. And that's how it needs to work for Web3, right? You connect your wallet, you do whatever you need to do, and that's it. You don't need to understand it, and then that's what it comes down to. It's you don't need to explain blockchain, unless you're trying to sell it to somebody or you're trying to pitch something. Oh, this is the new technology and we're trying to do this. And that's kind of like how this Web3, tokenization kind of came out of like, oh, this is Web3. This is the new technology. This is how we're going to go. But it's like people don't really need to understand it. They just need to understand how to use it. Right. And when we come down to how to use it, it's like, well, what can you use it for right now? And there's really like three things. Really, you can send payments to people, you can play with NFTs, or you can swap tokens. Pretty simple. Or you make DAOs or ENS, right? But there's not a lot to do, right? So people make up their own stuff, and you know, and they play with ideas. And some people are really creative, but at the end of the day, when you come down very very basic and filtered, then that's the essence of what this place is. And we still have yet to develop more and more stuff. And I have Deborah Jones asking to speak. I'll go ahead and approve it. Go for it, Deborah.
Hello.
What's up?
Howdy.
Oh, are you a faggot?
Okay. All right. Well, have to remove the speaker. That's a good one. All right, I'll go to Barty Dreams. I'll go ahead and add as a speaker. That was kind of funny. I enjoyed it. Go for it, Barty.
Now, why my pussy so wet?
Oh, I don't know, because I have a deep voice, maybe. All right. Well, anyways, it looks like we have a bunch of grammars. But anyways, I guess that's it for speakers right now. I'm gonna see if there's anybody actually legit on here, but probably
Test the
not.
water
Yeah.
again.
We made
Can't
it. We made
escape,
it, y'all.
brother. Goddamn. Trying to get out of the Discord, here on the Twitter Spaces.
That's it. They gave up on Discords with all those. But anyways, and then my last idea, and this is something I've been working on my own right here, and this is a concept that I've been working with, right, is the soulbound tokens and the idea that I had for soulbound tokens. Because there's a lot of people kind of like shooting the education way as for technical use for NFTs. There's a lot of like, we have Rabbit Hole, we have Learn. Gosh, there's like two other people that I've worked with that are kind of like, you do a course, you get a soulbound or non-transferable token, right? And so what I noticed myself, when I'm just doing some test runs and I'm doing some testnet stuff, is my NFT market is like, fuck, it's like just my wallet is huge, full of NTTs, right? Like it's just like disgustingly large with all these tokens. Like if I needed to find one in particular, it's too much, right? So I came up with an idea that I'm probably going to work on to maybe in a hackathon, because if you're going to do something good, you might as well get paid for it, right? But it's
Yeah.
a upgradable NTT, right? Where the moment you do a transaction or the moment you do whatever it is to qualify it, your one entity for that course gets updated with your accomplishments. So it's one NFT, and every time you accomplish something, let's say you do a Uniswap V2, you
Oh,
swap a
word?
token, yeah, and so now you have a badge on that one NFT, right? And then you vote on a DAO, and now that happens, and now you have it on your one NFT badge. So now they can look at one series, right? And I'm thinking of doing it in series because like Uniswap V2 is totally different than Uniswap V3. In essence, you can swap, right? But adding liquidity to Uniswap V2 is very, very different than Uniswap V3
Yep.
because
Yeah.
you can do it in range, or then you can do the specific, within a certain range on V3. And so those are two different very skills. So it's like, oh, I know how to use DEXs, or I know how to use Uniswap. Is well, is it V2 or V3, right? So I was thinking of maybe doing courses in that, but we'll have the universal NFT for whatever that course series or that semester, and then have them in series. So that you can kind of predetermine the classes that you have. And now instead of having 20, 40 different NTTs that are stuck in your wallet, and it's like, oh, let me see your NTTs.
Yeah,
Now you
that's
have
dope, man.
one to show. Yeah, you got one to show, and then it's based on events on chain, right? So if you swap something on Uniswap or you add liquidity, there is an event that happens on chain. You read that event, gets tied to your wallet, and that's proof on chain. It's not necessarily a questionnaire. It's not
Right.
necessarily. It's like you did it. You voted on the DAO. That event happened to your wallet. You did it. It's indisputable, right? Like if I did a quiz, it would like, okay, I failed one time, failed two times, but eventually I'll get it. Just because process of elimination. Do I really know how to do it? It's questionable. It's like college.
Mhm.
The one thing I learned about college is how to pass, not necessarily the actual subject, but how to pass the subject. So,
Sure.
in this world that we have right now, especially with on-chain stuff, especially for me, for anons, I don't care, man, woman, whatever. If you can do the
Yeah.
job, you can do the job. But if you can't do the job, I can't use your services, right? But how do I know you can do the job? Unless I could see
Right.
something that was on
Yeah.
chain, I can't take your word for it. There's no central authority yet. So it's just another idea, another evolution of where we're going with it. And then, again, when you have all these non-transferable tokens, it becomes quite the hassle to organize them because there's no way to organize your NFTs
Yeah.
easily yet, especially by collection. So it's like, well, let's just condense that down.
I'll have to
Let's make
chat
them
with you about that,
upgradable.
man.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's an idea that I've
Love it.
had that I'm kind of openly sharing, and I've been kind of working on that with the other projects that I'm working hand on hand with that. So I'm trying to use the same technologies for two different objects. But it's an idea that I've had. I'm like, man, this just makes more sense instead of being so clunky and like having rabbit holes certificates, and I have learn certificates, and they all do different things. Like how to buy an
Right.
NFT, and this one is how to swap this on an NFT. They're all different things. Like, why not just condense it all into one shot, and that way have proof of competence? I'm competent in DeFi. I'm competent in NFTs. I know how to list an NFT. I know how to buy an NFT. I know how to sell an NFT. Boom, you can see that one NFT award. And so that's kind of my idea that I'm working with. And again, I'm trying to be immutable, not any chain, no emails needed, just your wallet. And if you lose a wallet, fucking do it again because you're good at it. So no need to no need to sign up or call me or anything. Just fucking do the shit again. It's just a swap, liquidity, and it's easily provable stuff. Again, Web3 versus crypto, right? Web3, you have a LinkedIn profile, you have a resume. Crypto, you have a GitHub, right? And or you contribute to a project, and you contribute so much that your random name just keeps showing up. It's like, man, this guy's been contributing to our project. Let's hire him or her, whatever. So there's two different ways and two different parallel ways that are kind of happening in the space right now. And I'm finding myself leaning more towards the crypto side, and I guess I'm bringing these labels out to kind of identify things a little bit more clearer. But these are my thoughts, TULs. And I lost all the bots. Like, I wish I could hear their thoughts because I'm pretty sure they're getting wet right now. Hey, what are your thoughts?
Guys know where they left. No, man. I think that my bullish case, particularly for NFTs, is that this sort of the 2021 hype wave has created like a deeper consciousness and interest in the technology, and I think we're going to see a lot of um, innovation in and around NFTs more on
Yeah,
the tech side rather than flipping JPEGs. And this is just an example. Whether your ideas I know you've shared in the past about how to actually utilize music NFTs in a way that helps to share revenue, or whether it's the sort of like provable on-chain education series, upgradable NFTs. Like, yeah, I'm excited for what comes next in relation to like actual use cases for the tech itself, as you said, aside from those you might find on OpenSea with your credit card.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and there's going to be a place for both. I just don't want the Web3 to overtake the crypto where it's going to go back to the anons again. The dots versus the undots of, we want to innovate the space, not control the space. We don't want to fit into the mold. We're creating a new mold. Don't really care about institutional money yet. I mean, if my yield is low, it's low, but it's mine. And that's the future of it. ENS. I think I spoke to this on another space. Is ENS is going to have a really really hard battle time when the time comes where those minters that bought, Disney.eth or Nike.eth, and the corporations start suing because they want
Right.
control of that domain, and they go to the ENS DAO and say, all right, give us that token.
They're going to be
It's like,
going to
well,
Total Names Limited, brother. Total Names
yeah,
Limited. It's, I
yeah,
mean, you
so
should, I mean, yeah, I
yeah,
won't, speak too much of that now, but Edu could share a bit. I mean, it's been
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think it's this like I was reading about Constitution DAO, for example, as more recently. The interesting question with them that sort of intersects with what you're sharing here is like, so let's do a counterfactual and say they won.
yeah,
Okay, so now what? Now who and what will take custody of the physical artifact, and then how is that
right,
going to be stewarded? Right, it's not going to be a DAO. It's
right,
not, that's not actually possible right now.
yeah,
So yeah, it's there's all these interesting questions, but I think that this is like these are the things that are also being worked at a policy level. Um, right now, I think in some ways, activist groups, whether it's Coin Center or others, right,
yeah,
um, they're probably more important than they ever have been to try to help regulators get it right. Because as you said, I mean, they're coming, they're here,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they could more is likely get shit wrong and end up, you know, prolonging the bear or whatnot.
Right. I mean, the lawyers are drooling. Like this. This is lawyers' bull market right here because everybody's getting mad. Everybody was happy before, so they let things slide. Whatever, whatever, whatever. Now payments are coming short. People are disappearing. The lawsuit. This is the lawyers' time to shine. But it really doesn't have much to do with Web3. It's just more with fraud and things like that. Like I'm very particular on labels. I'm very particular on false advertising. Like if I say I'm a Web3 dev, then I know blockchain. I know how to deploy on at least EVMs or Solana or Near. So like when people write they're a Web3 whatever, I expect them to be knowledgeable of all those things on the so we're going through a lot of interesting evolutions in this space. But I'm bringing back the crypto, man. Those are my closing statements on that one.
I'm down, man. I'm here for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So definitely. So yeah, that's the show for this week or these 2 weeks. We have a biweekly show that pretty much gives you updates. Every Tuesday at 6:30 Pacific time. 6:30, yeah, 6:30 Pacific time. Keep you updates, and then we have a topic of conversation. We like to hear interactions between the users or our listeners, and we can always catch us live on the YouTube channel. That's One Night TV on YouTube. Is that right, Tilos?
That's right. One HTV. That's right, man.
Oh, one
Click
H
on over
one
there.
HV. Yeah. So you
One
can like view
HTV.
what we're talking about or the articles we're talking about and just general theology. And then we just, talk shit on the internet from time to time too and just have fun with it. We keep it punk. We're not very corporate. If you know me, I'm not a shirt and tie or like a tie and dress shirt kind of guy. I'm a sports pants and
We're
t-shirt, show up to the meeting kind
we're
of dude.
shirts we get at crypto conferences kind of guys. We're gonna.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't have to buy clothes. I can buy more ETH. Anyways, guys, thanks for hanging out. Any feedback is great. If you hate the show, let me know. If you love the show, let me know. And we'll catch you in 2 weeks.